Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right into the staggering reality of one of human history's absolutely greatest architectural feats. We're going to tear down some long-held misconceptions and totally shatter a few massive pop culture myths surrounding the Great Wall of China. We'll be looking closely at exactly how it was built, who built it, and the very real, very pressing threats it's facing right now. So first things first, we need to fundamentally redefine what the Great Wall actually is. Because if you're picturing a single, continuous stone structure running uninterrupted from one side of China to the other, well, you're absolutely not alone. But it turns out that's entirely incorrect. It's actually this massive, sprawling series of diverse fortifications, trenches, natural barriers, and overlapping defensive lines. They were built all across the historical northern borders of ancient Chinese states and imperial China to protect against various nomadic groups sweeping down from the Eurasian steppe. It's really more of a complex system than a single wall. And because it's a system, getting a handle on its true scale is absolutely crucial. So how long is this entire network? Well, in 2012, the National Cultural Heritage Administration did a massive, comprehensive mapping survey to find the definitive number. When you add up every single wall section, every trench and every defensive barrier constructed across all the dynasties, the whole shebang spans over 21,196 kilometers. To put that into perspective for you, that is literally more than half the circumference of the Earth. It's just mind-boggling. All right, so here is our agenda for today. First up, more than one wall. Second, an epic timeline. Third, bricks, mortar, and watchtowers. And finally, number 4, myths and modern reality. Let's get into it. Section 1. More than one wall. Scale and definition. Now, what's really fascinating is what the builders themselves actually called it. The term long wall first pops up in Sima Quan's famous Records of the Grand Historian. You'll also hear it called the 10,000 li long wall, but that number is totally figurative. It's kind of like saying a myriad of miles just to mean something totally immeasurable. Remarkably, early Chinese dynasties actually steered clear of calling it the Great Wall. Why? Because it carried a heavy association with the supposed tyranny of the first emperor. So instead, they used these highly poetic and formal names like the Purple Frontier or, and this is definitely my personal favorite, the Earth Dragon. For practical military stuff during the medieval period, they just called them the border walls. It actually wasn't until the 19th century that the Great Wall of China became the standard English name, mostly thanks to European travelers. Moving on to Section 2, an epic timeline from the Qin to the Ming dynasties. If we trace this history back, you see just how incredibly long this project persisted. I mean, the Chinese were building walls way back in the 7th century BC during the Spring and Autumn period. Back then, early feudal states were literally stamping earth together to protect their own individual territories. Fast forward to 221 BC, the first emperor of the Qin dynasty unifies China, tears down the walls dividing his new empire, and connects the northern walls to fend off the Xiongnu nomads. But you know that iconic, majestic masterpiece you always see in photographs? That is almost entirely the work of the Ming dynasty between 1368 and 1644. And finally, when the Qing dynasty took power in 1644 and annexed Mongolia, China's borders expanded way beyond the wall itself. So its primary defensive purpose, and basically all its construction, came to a complete halt. You know, the central guiding principle during those early construction eras was simply build and move on. I think this brilliantly captures how early Chinese empires viewed this project. They weren't trying to draw a permanent, rigid line in the sand. Instead, they were dynamically adapting to highly mobile nomadic threats coming from the Eurasian steppe. The walls were a fluid, living military strategy. They expanded, shifted, and evolved right along with the empire's reach and the shifting threats they faced. Let's dive into Section 3, bricks, mortar, and watchtowers. Let's talk construction techniques. There is a stark contrast in how they actually built these things over time. Transporting heavy materials was an absolute logistical nightmare in the ancient world. Because of that, the early builders during the Qin and Han dynasties just used whatever was lying around. If they were out on the plains, they used rammed earth and gravel. Up in the mountains, they used local stones. But the Ming dynasty? They totally revolutionized the game. After suffering a major defeat to the Mongols, they decided a simple pile of dirt just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They upgraded to an incredibly durable system using uniform fired bricks, heavy roof tiles, and massive stone foundations. This allowed for much steeper, heavier, and significantly taller structures. Okay, this is where it gets really wild, and it brilliantly shows off their resourcefulness. How exactly did they bind all those heavy Ming bricks together so securely that they're still standing centuries later? Well, they literally used a mortar made of sticky rice soup mixed with slaked lime. It created an incredibly strong chemical bond. It's amazing. And right here, we can completely debunk one of the darkest urban legends out there. You might have heard that human bones or bodies were mixed into the mortar. Yeah, no. There is zero historical or archaeological evidence for that. None. It was just good old-fashioned chemistry and a whole lot of sticky rice. And the sheer scale of the manpower and logistics involved is just mind-bending. To coordinate troop movements, warn the garrisons, and spot those Mongol raiders before they could even strike, the Ming dynasty erected an estimated 25,000 watchtowers along their borders. 25,000! By using signal fires and smoke from these high-visibility points, a warning message could travel hundreds of miles in just a matter of hours. They effectively turned the wall into a highly advanced, ancient communications superhighway. Finally, we've arrived at Section 4, Myths and Modern Reality. So, we have to confront a pretty tragic reality today. According to a major 2012 report by the National Cultural Heritage Administration, 22% of the iconic Ming Great Wall, that's nearly 2,000 kilometers of it, has completely vanished, just gone. Why? It's a rough combination of natural erosion, aggressive sandstorms, construction damage, and sadly, simple vandalism. Shockingly, for years, people would actually steal the inscribed bricks to build local houses, or they'd sell them at markets for as little as 50 renminbi. What we often picture as an indestructible, eternal monument is actually incredibly vulnerable. Which brings us to the ultimate pop culture question. You know the one, it gets repeated in textbooks, trivia nights, and basically everywhere else. Is this massive structure truly visible to the naked human eye from the surface of the moon? The answer to that is a definitive, absolute no. Not a chance. The math on this is actually fascinating. NASA confirms it because the wall is so incredibly narrow and its colors perfectly blend in with the local dirt and stone surrounding it. Trying to see it from the moon is literally like trying to look at a single human hair from 3 kilometers, or about 2 miles away. You just can't see it. In fact, this myth started way back in 1754 by an English antiquary named William Stukeley. That is centuries before anyone had ever actually been to space. Even from low Earth orbit, it's barely visible and only under absolutely perfect weather conditions. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, very pressing thought. Right now, over 60 kilometers of the ancient mud brick wall in Gansu province alone is predicted to just vanish in the next 20 years due to brutal sandstorms. The challenge ahead of us is incredibly clear. How do we actively preserve this ancient, eroding earth dragon before even more of it disappears into the sands of time forever? It is an absolute testament to human ingenuity and endurance, but it's going to require our help to survive the next millennium. So what role can we play in protecting it? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Great Wall. Keep questioning those myths, keep exploring the facts, and I'll see you on the next explainer.